Welcome back to another episode of No Shame with Shane, where the takes have no lies, no bias, but most importantly, no shame. I'm your host, Shane Fordham. Now, looking at these offseason moves, Jalen Hurts is up for an extension. That seems to be a huge, hot topic right now, hot topic of debate in terms of should the Eagles extend Jalen Hurts. Now, looking at Jalen Hurts getting a potential extension, I mean, I could understand not giving Jalen Hurts an extension this year right now just because he's under contract through 2028. I can understand it from that standpoint, but if your thinking is the Eagles should not extend Jalen Hurts because of what his numbers were this season, or just because you didn't like what you saw from him this season, I think that's idiotic. I think not extending Jalen Hurts just because his numbers weren't high enough this year would be idiotic, because it's because you're all like, what I mean, what other choices do you have? Like, if you're not extending Jalen Hurts because you don't like what you saw from him this year and you think you could get something better out of someone else, like what are the options? Like people are saying the Eagles shouldn't extend Jalen Hurts because they didn't like his output this year, as if the Eagles have other options. One, like that's one. Like, not extending him for that sole reason is dumb in itself. But thinking that the Eagles have other options that they could go to for quarterback as well, that would be a proper alternative to Jalen Hurts, is also stupid. Like, if you don't want to extend Jalen Hurts, tell me what the alternative is. If you think Jalen Hurts does not deserve an extension from the Eagles right now, please explain to me what the alternative is for the quarterback position. Like, what is the alternative for a Super Bowl champion? What is the alternative for a Super Bowl MVP? What is the alternative for an All-Pro? What is the alternative for an MVP candidate? What is the alternative for a guy who has won a Super Bowl MVP, earned All-Pro honors in one season? What is the alternative for a quarterback that finished top 5 in total touchdowns this year? Like, I'm confused. What is the alternative for a guy who continually has proven to be able to overcome his system, overcome his coaching, consistently in the playoffs every single year as a starter? I'm confused what the alternative is to that guy. Like, I'm confused what that guy, like, what else he has to do in order to be worthy of an extension in most people's eyes. I'm confused. Like, I understand his season this year wasn't flashy statistically, but I'm confused what people think the alternative is, what people think the better option is for the Eagles as opposed to Jalen Hurts when we're talking about an extension. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand, because if you're choosing not to extend somebody, like if you want to wait a year, just because you have time to give him the extension just because of, he's going to be under contract for a minute, I understand that. But if you're trying to not give him an extension just because you don't think he should be the quarterback of the future, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I just there has to be some sort of understanding that has to be met when it comes to discussing an extension for Jalen Hurts, because it just doesn't make sense. Like, you're basically saying you don't appreciate the fact that he wins games if you're choosing not to extend him. Like, if I'm the Eagles, I would extend Jalen Hurts right now. This very second, this very moment, I would extend Jalen Hurts right now. Like, I wouldn't be like, I understand if the Eagles would want to, if Howie Roseman would want to wait another year just because of, what his numbers were this year. Like, I would understand if Howie Roseman wants to wait another year just for the simple fact that there is time because of the fact that Jalen Hurts is under contract through 2028. I can understand it from that standpoint, but if it's from a standpoint of, his numbers not being flashy this year, wanting to wait to see what else is available, that would make no sense to me. That would make no sense to me because, one, even though his numbers weren't flashy this year, he still consistently wins games, especially in the playoffs. And two, it's not like the Eagles would be able to find a better option. Like the Eagles aren't going to be able to sign Patrick Mahomes in the next 2 years. Like the Eagles aren't going to be able to sign a better option than Jalen Hurts within these next 2 seasons. So there's no other better alternative as opposed to what we have already in Jalen Hurts. Like, and honestly, if the Eagles do decide to move on from Jalen Hurts in the future, the Eagles will learn quickly, the Eagles will learn quickly how easy it is to take someone for granted in terms of what they do for you. We'll learn that lesson pretty quick. But the main reason why I would re-sign Jalen Hurts right now today is because he answers the question, what have you done for me lately? And when we're discussing contracts, that's the most important question. When we're discussing extensions, that's the most important question. Jalen Hurts answers the question, what have you done for me lately? What has he done for us lately is win a Super Bowl. What has he done for us lately is win a Super Bowl MVP. What has he done for us lately is earn all pro honors. What has he done for us lately is consistently make the playoffs. What has he done for us lately is win a Super Bowl MVP, and earn all pro honors in the same season, being the only quarterback aside from Patrick Mahomes in today's NFL to do so. Like, what has he done for us lately is consistently overcome poor system, poor scheme, and poor coaching. Four different offensive coordinators, 4 playoff berths consistently. That's what Jalen Hurts has done for us lately. He answers the question, what have you done for us lately, honestly, flawlessly. So the fact that Jalen Hurts answers that question, I would re-sign Jalen Hurts right now, today, immediately. Because that's the most important thing. That is 100% the most important thing. So I understand the numbers weren't flashy. I understand the Eagles had another down year in 3 years. I understand that. But we are still talking about a guy who has made the playoffs every year he has been a starter, has been to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, has consistently played well in big games, has played big in big games. Not extending Jalen Hurts just because, from a standpoint of not really trusting him in the future or believing in him as the future of this franchise at the quarterback position, is dumb to me. It's honestly dumb to me, and I can't get behind that. I can't get behind that. Now, looking at some other contract sort of issues the Eagles have to address this offseason is re-signing certain guys. We got a lot of guys who are going into their free agent year this offseason now. My top re-signing priorities for the Eagles this offseason are Jalen Phillips, Dallas Goedert, Reed Blankenship, Jahan Dotson, and Brandon Graham. Those are my biggest priorities for the Eagles in terms of guys who should be re-signed if the financial situation allows. Honorable mention to Brandon Graham as well. Definitely an honorable mention to Brandon Graham. The only reason why I do not have Nakobe Dean on that list, well, a couple reasons why I don't have Nakobe Dean on that list. Like, Nakobe Dean had a great season this year, once he came back healthy and earned his starting job back. Great season this year. Definitely was a big reason why this defense sort of flipped a switch and turned around, sort of halfway through for the second half of the season. Definitely was a spark that the unit needed. But if we're looking at Nakobe Dean, we know he's a guy that struggles with injuries, that has struggled with injuries since he's really been drafted. Even though when healthy, he's a great linebacker for us, he does struggle with injuries. But then also, just looking at the depth that the Eagles have at linebacker right now, in one, Jahad Campbell, and really Jeremiah Trotter Jr. as well. I don't think the Eagles would be re-signing. I don't think the Eagles would have drafted Jahad Campbell if they weren't planning on replacing him with Nakobe Dean. And I could understand not re-signing Nakobe Dean after what we saw from Jahad Campbell this year. Jahad Campbell, like, if we remember, Jahad Campbell was on his way to being a defensive rookie of the year candidate before Nakobe Dean came back healthy. Before Nakobe Dean came back healthy, Jahad Campbell not only looked like one of the best defensive rookies in the NFL, but he genuinely looked like one of the best and most gifted linebackers in the NFL. Like, the, like, honestly, a duo of Zach Bond and Jahad Campbell could honestly be limitless in terms of potential and ability. Like, these are two guys who are honestly freakishly athletic, can do anything and everything that you would need a linebacker to do. Coverage, stop the run, blitzing. Like, they can do all that and more at that linebacker position. The fact that the Eagles have Jahad Campbell and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. in that LB room, it wouldn't surprise me at all if the Eagles choose to let Nakobe Dean walk this offseason. And honestly, in terms of priorities, that's why Nakobe Dean isn't really a huge priority to me, because of who else we have left in that LB room and where else, and the other positions on the field on both sides of the ball that we can allocate that money to, as opposed to another linebacker. And it really sucks too, because I would love to see Nakobe Dean in an Eagles jersey next season. I don't think financially, like, with the limited resources that the Eagles have this offseason, I don't think it would be financially responsible for the Eagles to use those funds towards Nakobe Dean when we could be using those funds towards bolstering up the O-line after all the injuries we had this year. Kind of making some additions to the secondary after the holes that we saw last year due to poor play and injuries. There's different areas that could use that money more than the linebacker room, than that linebacker position for the Eagles. So those are definitely my priorities. First one, Jaelan Phillips needs to be the biggest priority when it comes to re-signing for the Eagles this offseason. Like, Jaelan Phillips needs to be the biggest re-signing priority for the Birds this offseason. Like, we're talking about the best pass rusher in the free agents in the free agency market right now. Best pass rusher aside from Trey Hendrickson. Like, because of there's several reasons why Jaelan Phillips should be the biggest re-signing priority. Jaelan Phillips should be the biggest re-signing priority for the Eagles in this offseason. He's the best pass rusher in the entire free agency market right now, aside from Trey Hendrickson. He completely turned this defense around. Like, the Jaelan Phillips impact was real on this defense this year. As soon as he came in, he helped completely turn the defense around, halfway through the season. It'll most likely be doable financially bringing Jaelan Phillips back to the Eagles. So not only would it be doable financially, but we would also be getting a guy who has defensive player of the year level potential for cheap. Like, we would be able to afford a guy that has a guy that whose talent and potential is through the roof at an affordable rate. So there's many reasons why bringing Jaelan Phillips back to the Eagles is not only makes sense, but is absolutely essential to the success of this defense next year. 100%. Like, the Jaelan Phillips impact on the Eagles defense this year was very much real. It was super real. It was super apparent. Like, there is no reason why the Eagles should not be focusing on bringing Jaelan Phillips back to Philly this year after what we saw him do this season. Jaelan Phillips drastically improved this defense the minute he entered the city. Drastically improved the defense. Like, if we're looking at the D-line had 16 sacks through 8 weeks before the JP trade. That ranks bottom third in the NFL at that time. We were struggling creating pressure on opposing quarterbacks. After the JP trade, the Eagles rack up 25 additional sacks, ranking top 4 during that time span in the NFL. JP only contributing 2 of those sacks, but no question he was making factor plays on the field that led other guys to get those sacks, like Jalyx Hunt. Jalyx Hunt looked much better after the JP trade than he did before the JP trade. Jalen Phillips made Jalix Hunt look much better. He made Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis look better as well. He made the whole D-line look better after the trade. He not only made the D-line look better, but he also made the secondary look much better, i.e. Adoree Jackson, specifically Adoree Jackson. I don't think it is a coincidence that Adoree Jackson looked light years better with Jalen Phillips on the field than he did with Jalen Phillips off the field. Adoree Jackson was the weak link for this defense, what felt like for the longest time for the first half of the season. But once Jalen Phillips got into the fold, once he was a part of the rotation, once he was on the field, Adoree Jackson didn't look that weak anymore. Adoree Jackson looked like a DB that could hold his own against talented receivers, that could hold his own on the opposite side of the field of Quinyon Mitchell. So the JP impact on this defense this year, the JP effect on the defense this year was very much real. And that's honestly the biggest reason why, another reason why the Eagles should be focused on bringing Jalen Phillips back to Philly this offseason 100%. Another focus for the Eagles when it comes to re-signing should be Dallas Goedert. The Eagles should definitely be focused on re-signing Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert earned his money this season. He definitely earned his money this season. I know he's a little bit on the older side. He's had some issues with injuries in the past, but Dallas Goedert definitely earned his money this season. This season, Dallas Goedert looked like a top 5 tight end. He solidified himself as a top 5 tight end in the NFL. He was the leader in touchdowns for the Eagles. Not only the leader in receiving touchdowns, but he was also the leader in red zone touchdowns for the Eagles. So he was huge, not only a huge piece just in the overall offensive scheme, but he was a huge situational piece for this Eagles offensive scheme. Leader in touchdowns for the Eagles, tied for second in receiving touchdowns amongst all tight ends in the NFL. No, I'm sorry, tied for first in touchdowns. So he was Dallas Goedert should definitely be a focus for the Eagles when it comes to re-signing this offseason 100%. Should definitely be a focus. He solidified himself as a top 5 tight end this year, being the leader in receiving touchdowns for the Eagles this year and leading all other tight ends in the NFL in receiving touchdowns this year, being tied for first with Trey McBride. Dallas Goedert definitely earned his money this year. I know he's dealt with some injuries, some injury issues in the past. He's a little bit on the older side, but he definitely earned his place and earned his money this season. 100%. Dallas Goedert definitely earned his money and should definitely be a focus for the Eagles. Not only was he a huge piece for the offense, but he was a huge situational piece for the offense. He definitely has a rapport, obviously, with Jalen Hurts in this offensive scheme so far. The only reason I would not re-sign Dallas Goedert, the only reason I could see the Eagles not re-signing Dallas Goedert would be if they were signing Kyle Pitts. The only reason why I could understand the Eagles not re-signing Dallas Goedert is if they're choosing to use that money to go get Kyle Pitts, a guy who is a younger tight end, a guy who is a more talented tight end, a guy who obviously has a higher ceiling at the tight end position, is more athletic. That's the only reason I would understand as to why the Eagles would not be re-signing Dallas Goedert. He's more talented. He's more athletic. He's not as injury prone. He's younger. That's the only reason why I could see the Eagles not re-signing Dallas Goedert. And honestly, that would be a great move. The only way I would be cool with not re-signing Dallas Goedert is if it means Kyle Pitts is an Eagle for the 2027 season. The only way. Another re-signing focus of mine for the Eagles is Reed Blankenship. I think Reed Blankenship should be another focus for the Eagles in terms of re-signing and contracts this offseason. One, I think Reed Blankenship is one of the most aggressive DBs, one of the most aggressive safeties in the National Football League. He's one of the best safeties in the NFL. He obviously has that championship DNA, being a part of both championship teams. A huge reason why this secondary has been an elite secondary really for the past few years. A huge reason why the Eagles secondary have arguably one of the best secondaries in the NFL. But most importantly, bringing Reed Blankenship back, having a guy like Reed Blankenship in the secondary, it allows Cooper DeJean to continue to roam. It allows Cooper DeJean to continue being a roaming DB, which is what he is best at when he is at his best. Like, re-signing Blankenship is really an investment in Cooper DeJean, who is not only one of the best safeties in the NFL, one of the best nickels in the NFL, but is just one of the best overall DBs in the NFL. Arguably the best dual DB in the NFL. Like, bringing Reed Blankenship back allows Vic Fangio to use Cooper DeJean as that Swiss Army knife, that multi-use guy, a role that Cooper DeJean has thrived in since we drafted him. Being an all pro guy this year in just his second year. Like, bringing back, like, Cooper DeJean is obviously a huge part of this team, not only for the present, but for the future. But bringing Reed Blankenship back is an investment in that future, is an investment in the development of that really emerging superstar in Philly, that emerging defensive superstar in the secondary in Cooper DeJean. So the Eagles should not only bring Reed Blankenship back just because of his own abilities and what he brings to the secondary, but also because of what bringing him back does for Cooper DeJean's role in the defense. Another reason why I think the Eagles should bring back Reed Blankenship is because it would retain some seniority and some a veteran presence for what is really one of the youngest, if not the youngest, defense in the NFL. At least when we're talking about defenses on that elite level. Like, having a young defense is great, especially when it is as talented as this unit is. Guys like Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, obviously Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, 2 all-pro guys this year. You know, the guys like Jahad Campbell and Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who are probably going to have bigger roles in the defense this year. You know, other young guys on the defense like Moro Ojomo, Ty Robinson. Bringing back that seniority, that veteran presence like Reed Blankenship, that's important when it comes to the playoffs, late season, especially when it comes to fighting for a Super Bowl. Like, having that sort of, that equalizer, both on the field and in the locker room, is huge for a young defense like this in Philly. So that's another reason why Reed Blankenship should be a focus for the Eagles when it comes to re-signing this offseason. But another focus, I think, is Jahan Dotson. I think the Eagles should definitely, I would love to see Jahan Dotson back in an Eagles jersey this year. I want to see this dude get more targets. Like, I honestly want to see how good, like, we've seen flashes of what Jahan Dotson is capable of in the NFL when he gets targets. I want to see how good this guy can really be once he does get more targets. Like, once the Eagles really do become more of an air raid offense, you know, with you know, much more complex, you know, route schemes and sort of a more advanced route tree being used in this playbook, I want to see how good exactly Jahan Dotson can be in this unit as a number 3 with a Super Bowl MVP as his quarterback, with 2 elite receivers, you know, as his number 1 and number 2. Like, I want to see how good not only Jahan Dotson can be in this offense, but how good this offense can be with Jahan Dotson as the number 3. I just want to see how good he can be. I honestly feel like Jahan Dotson is could be the best number 3 option when it comes to receivers in the NFL. He could be among the top number 3 options when it comes to targets in the NFL. I would love to see Jahan Dotson in an Eagles jersey for the 2027 season. I'm not sure if it'll happen. It looks like it most likely won't happen, but I really hope it does. I genuinely hope it does. But another guy who I would love to see in an Eagles jersey again in the 2027 season is Brandon Graham. The Eagles got to bring Brandon Graham back. I feel like that's a given. The Eagles have to bring Brandon Graham back. We saw this dude definitely still has gas in the tank. Brandon Graham coming back to the Eagles late in the season, honestly, I feel like was not talked about enough and definitely deserves more praise and more shine, because he's definitely another big reason why not just the defense, but the D-line specifically was able to turn it around, you know, towards that second half of the season. This man was sitting on the couch for the first half of the season, comes back in and gets 3 sacks. The old man on the squad, the uncle on the team, comes off the couch and notches 3 sacks, instantly providing a spark to the D line. Like not only is bringing Brandon Graham back a logical decision for the Eagles personnel and playing wise, but also financially, like we can definitely afford, like Brandon Graham is not asking for big money. Brandon Graham is honestly just doing it for the love of the game at this point. Like he has his 2 rings. He has his future Hall of Fame status. Like Brandon Graham is a solidified legend in Philly sports already. He's just doing it right now for the love of the game. He's doing it right now for the love of the game with hopes of another ring. Brandon Graham will take as big of a pay cut as he needs to just to be an Eagle. He's not playing for anyone else. Like he's not accepting a contract for anyone else. So Brandon Graham definitely should be a focus for the Eagles. That's a gimme. That's a gimme for the Eagles going into this 2027 season in the offseason. Now looking at free agency, first, before I get into this, I just want to start off by saying I would not mind if the Eagles traded A.J. Brown this offseason. I don't think they should necessarily, but I also wouldn't be upset if the Eagles do trade A.J. Brown. And that's for 2 reasons. One, because of DeVonta Smith and the role that he would comfortably take over in A.J.'s absence. And then 2, just looking at the guys who are available in the free agency market right now. Guys like Alec Pierce, guys like Rashid Shaheed, guys like Romeo Doubs, all of whom would do a great job as the number 2 on the Eagles in A.J. Brown's absence. So I wouldn't be upset if the Eagles traded A.J. Brown. I don't think they necessarily should. I think the Eagles are obviously more talented with A.J. Brown. You know, they obviously would have an elite receiver duo with A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith. But at the same time, I wouldn't be upset because it would allow DeVonta Smith to take a bigger role in the passing game on the offense. And because of the guys that we could bring in to help supplement DeVonta Smith in A.J. Brown's absence. So I wouldn't be totally upset. Trading A.J. Brown would allow DeVonta Smith to become an Offensive Player of the Year candidate. If the Eagles trade A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith becomes an Offensive Player of the Year candidate instantly. Immediately. I think that happens immediately. Like DeVonta Smith has everything you need in a receiver 1. Everything you would want your receiver 1 to have, DeVonta Smith has. He has elite ball skills. He has elite hands. He has elite speed, an elite catch radius. He's definitely shown the ability to win in those 50-50 ball, 50-50 catch situations. He's an elite route runner. Like he can be used behind the line of scrimmage in different ways. Sweeps, jet sweeps, thing, and can be a multi-use receiver in this scheme. Like he has everything. He's the complete package. Like I don't think it's crazy to say that without A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith could have a JSN type of year. DeVonta Smith has been better than JSN at every single level. Like we're talking about a guy who is a national champion, was a national champion in college, a Heisman winner, a guy who is now a Super Bowl champion. I don't think it's crazy to say that DeVonta Smith could have a JSN type of year without A.J. Brown. He's been better than JSN at every single level. Like he was better than JSN in college. He was better than JSN as a number 2 when JSN had DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett on the field. Like, I don't think it's crazy to say that that DeVonta Smith could be at the level or better than JSN as a number 1 receiver. With what we've seen from DeVonta Smith throughout his career, from college to now, I don't think that's a crazy jump to say that DeVonta Smith could at the very least be at JSN's level, have that type of year, if not better, with what we've seen from DeVonta Smith leading up to this season. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. But if I'm looking at free agent priorities, I'm looking at first receiver. Like if the Eagles were to do something with A.J. Brown, I think the clear choice for me would be Alec Pierce, Rashid Shaheed, or Romeo Doubs. Looking at Alec Pierce and Rashid Shaheed, obviously two of the best deep threats in the NFL right now. Like really Alec Pierce being more of an underrated guy in my opinion. Rashid Shaheed, arguably the fastest player in the NFL right now, up there with Tyreek Hill, up there with Chris Olave. Like, Alec Pierce and Rashid Shaheed would be clear targets for the Eagles this offseason if they do decide to deal AJ Brown. But then another guy would be Romeo Doubs. Production has kind of wavered, but he's definitely shown flashes of being a guy who can make those big plays, those big catches, whether as a deep threat or as a more of a possession type of receiver, third down type of receiver, but also being able to make those 50-50 grabs as well. So I'm looking at, I think either one of those three guys would be a great target, would be a great addition for the Eagles in light of a potential AJ Brown absence. I think the Eagles definitely need to do work at cornerback this offseason. I'm looking at Riq Woolen and I'm looking at Nahshon Wright. The Eagles should definitely be targeting Riq Woolen or Nahshon Wright this offseason because Adoree Jackson is clearly not the future. Like, Adoree Jackson, even though he did look a lot better with Jaelan Phillips on the field, Adoree Jackson is still not the answer long term, not only because of his production and performance this season, but also because of his age. Dude is 32 years old. He is not the option for the future when it comes to building a secondary that can contend next year, the year after that. Like, if you look at the Seahawks did have veteran presence, but they also had one of the younger secondaries in the league as well. Devin Witherspoon being mid-20s, Riq Woolen being mid-20s, Nick Amanwori being a rookie. Like, I believe Kobe Bryant or I believe Bryant is on that younger side as well. Like, they had really Julian Love was their veteran presence in the secondary, just like how Reed Blankenship is the veteran presence for the secondary right now. I definitely think the Eagles not only need to get younger at that opposite corner position, opposite side of Quinyon Mitchell, but they also need to get better. I think Riq Woolen or Nahshon Wright would be perfect additions for the Eagles, for this Eagles secondary this coming season. Like, if we're looking at Riq Woolen and Nahshon Wright, those would be great additions for the Eagles when it comes to reinforcing this secondary for the 2027 season. Riq Woolen being way more talented than Adoree Jackson, being one of the best corners in coverage, being one of the best tackling corners. He also has that natural Philly attitude, it seems like. Nahshon Wright, obviously being one of the better coverage corners as well. Not really as good of a tackler, but definitely one of the best coverage corners in the league this year. Tied for second most takeaways in the NFL this year. Riq Woolen contributing to what was the best secondary in the NFL this year. And Nahshon Wright contributing to arguably the best secondary in the NFL this year, leading the league in takeaways this year in Chicago. Tied for second interceptions in the NFL himself individually. Like, either one of these guys would be a great addition for the Eagles this offseason to replace Adoree Jackson and play opposite side of Quinyon Mitchell. If the Eagles get either one of these guys, Riq Woolen or Nahshon Wright, pairing with Quinyon Mitchell, the Eagles could easily have a top 2 or 3, if not best, cornerback duo in the NFL. They already have the best DB duo in the NFL with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, arguably. If the Eagles were to acquire Riq Woolen or Nahshon Wright this offseason, pairing them with Quinyon Mitchell, the Eagles could arguably have the best specifically cornerback duo in the NFL this coming season, 100%. 100%. I also think it wouldn't hurt for the Eagles to sort of add to that pass rush depth as well. Like, I think assuming the Eagles bring back Jaelan Phillips with Jalix Hunt, I don't think adding some pass rush depth behind those two guys would hurt either. Alongside Nolan Smith. Like, I think a big pickup for the Eagles this offseason could be Kingsley Enagbare from the Packers. He definitely looked like a capable pass rusher playing behind Micah Parsons and Rashawn Gary in rotation. I think an Enagbare pickup for the Eagles could be lethal in the mix with Jaelan Phillips and Jalix Hunt coming off the edge. That could honestly be lethal. But that's all we got for today's edition of No Shame with Shane. If you haven't already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms. And I will be back later on with more shameless takes.